Hi, my name is Travis Brainwood, and I spent my entire life savings building a jellyfish laboratory in my backyard. So let's take a tour through it.
So jellyfish isn't really something a whole lot of people get into, right? Do you want to talk about how you got into not only keeping but breeding jellyfish?
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I was raised on a farm, but not a livestock farm. I was raised on a koi fish farm. So my dad bred Japanese koi fish, and he line bred them. So he bred all of these very specific color morphs of koi. So I grew up in that environment, first off. But growing up and going to the public aquariums, the jellyfish are always my favorite exhibit. At the North Carolina Aquarium, they're like one of the last exhibits you see, and I would always run past all the other stuff to go see the jellyfish because that's all I really cared about. And one day in high school, I kind of got this idea of like, okay, well, I've done all of this other crazy stuff in my life. Like, surely I could learn how to keep jellyfish. So I did a bunch of research, and I kind of put together this like 5-point PowerPoint pitch for my mother. And asked her if I could keep jellyfish in our house. And her first answer, of course, was no. But once I gave her the 5-point PowerPoint presentation, then she finally caved and allowed me to keep jellyfish. But it kind of snowballed because I built my own tank. I started keeping jellyfish, and then my next thing was I wanted to learn how their life cycles work and how to grow them in captivity, and I wanted to kind of see the whole process. And so I started turning the garage into a jellyfish laboratory. It started with moon jellyfish, and then upside down jellies, and then next thing you know, I had 10 species and more. And so that's kind of how I got into it. At one point in time, I was breeding jellyfish and selling them, mostly to help fund my interest in jellyfish. I rented a commercial space, I started growing jellyfish at a commercial scale, and then kind of decided that that wasn't really the path I wanted to take with my life. I was more interested in the research of jellyfish, the science behind it. And so I pivoted about 2 years ago, and that was when I built this garage. So I kind of closed up shop at the space I was renting, and then had this garage constructed in my backyard, much to my wife's amusement. And then started moving all my jellyfish in here, and now I have a collection of over 60 species of jellyfish. If I'm not mistaken, that is the largest private collection of jellyfish on the planet. And so now I work as an independent researcher. So I do research with other universities and labs and stuff, and collaborate while I finish getting my PhD in biology. So that's how I got into jellyfish.
I got that, by the way.
Awesome, I'll put that in there too.
All right, Travis, care to tell us what we are looking at right now?
Yeah, so this is what I've dubbed the jelly wall. So this is where the large majority of the adult-sized jellyfish are going to be growing. So there's a bunch of different species here. I've set up all of these tanks. Most of them I had to build myself. Jellyfish aquariums are hard to come by, and they're super expensive. So a lot of these tanks are just ordinary aquariums that I have modified to be jellyfish safe. So as you can see, there's sort of a curved acrylic panel here, and then a screen. And so basically, there's a spray bar keeping the jellies suspended in the water, but that screen keeps them from going down the drain to the filtration. And then the spray bar is what's keeping them kind of spinning like that, so that they stay in the middle of the water column. So again, yeah, most of those tanks I had to make myself. There's a couple here that I had imported. And this is split up roughly into 2 systems, so I can raise different types of jellyfish because some of them have different temperature requirements, salinity, lighting, etc. And so there's 2 filtration systems, and then also I can kind of take tanks and put them on their own, separate them in case I have a species that has a really specific requirement. So like these guys are tropical, they like full strength salinity and a lot of light, so they're on their own system right now. You can see got a couple Australian spotted jellyfish, and there's actually a spotted lagoon jellyfish in there with them as well. You have your classic moon jellyfish here. These actually came from Virginia about 2 weeks ago. I'm still working on determining what species of moon jellyfish they are. So I'm going to do some DNA sequencing work with them in the next month or two and maybe get a positive ID on them. But I've got several tanks filled with those guys.
Now, you know that these are one of my favorite species.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about how you differentiate between, because you were talking about one is Australian and one is...
Right, yeah, so they have very similar names. You have the Australian spotted jellyfish and then the spotted lagoon jellyfish. And visually they do look pretty similar, especially at this size. So these two guys here are the Australian spotted jellies, and then here's the spotted lagoon. The Australian spotted jellies originate from Australia, as their name would suggest, but they've also been introduced into places around the world. So they can actually be found here in the Atlantic certain years, and many other places around the world. So you can see how they've got smaller spots, and then they've got these dainty little arms here, whereas the spotted lagoon jelly has bigger blotches and then more spade-shaped arms. And then these guys get enormous. They get like 3 feet in diameter, whereas the spotted lagoon jellyfish gets about the size of a softball, maybe.
All right, what else do we have?
More moon jellies. Again, these guys in particular were wild caught. You can actually see, so unfortunately this guy is starting to turn inside out, but you can see on the arms there, those little purple frilly bits, those are actually larvae. So that's a female that is developing larvae on her arms there, and those will swim off and turn into larval jellyfish.
So now, you mentioned turning inside out. When that happens, typically what does that mean?
Usually it's a stress response. So again, I found these guys in the wild, and their water temperature where they were collected from was almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like incredibly hot. So a couple of them looked a little funky. When jellyfish get outside of their preferred temperature range, they do start to do things like turn inside out. They're made out of mostly protein, so you think about like what happens to an egg when you pour it into a hot pan. It goes from being squishy to rubbery. Same thing happens to jellyfish, unfortunately. So luckily, now they're in a temperature controlled environment. They're not at 90 degrees anymore, but we've had that heat wave and that drought, so that tends to do funny things to jellyfish. So that's what's going on with that guy. Moving along, we have bay nettles. So these guys, their scientific name is Chrysora chesapeakii, because they predominantly come from the Chesapeake Bay. And in the summertime, you can find millions and millions of them. They really have a chokehold on the Chesapeake. So I like these guys. They look like kind of your quintessential classic jellyfish. They've got the long frilly tentacles. They have a bit of a sting to them. They just kind of have that overall jellyfish look to them. And these guys live in brackish bays and rivers, so you can even find them surprisingly far inland. As long as there's some salinity, they tend to be there in the summer months. So not only the Chesapeake, but the Pamlico Sound, the Neuse Rivers in North Carolina, the Gulf, they're pretty widespread in brackish environments.
We just saw some jellyfish that are more mature. What does the life cycle look like for these guys? I'm assuming because you breed them, you're going to start them much, much younger, right?
Right. Yeah, so jellyfish have a multi-part life cycle similar to a frog or butterfly, where they go through these distinct different stages. So the jellyfish stage is actually one of the shorter lived stages in their life cycle. It's the one we're most familiar with because we encounter them at the beaches or in the aquariums, and they're usually big and colorful. But the longer lived portion of their life cycle is called the polyp. So polyps are these little things that look like anemones that live on the bottom of the seafloor, attached to shells or rocks or whatever, and they are responsible for producing the jellyfish. So a polyp will live, again, on the seafloor or something until there are certain environmental conditions that tell them, hey, it's time to start making jellyfish. It could be a temperature change, maybe springtime is coming and the salinity drops and the temperature increases, or there's more light so the days are getting longer, and that signals them that it's time to start producing jellyfish. But until then, they live in this sort of stasis where they're just a polyp. They can clone themselves, So they can split into two, and then you have more polyps. So in a laboratory setting, that means that I'm growing a bunch of different tanks with all of these different species of polyps, and I'm just maintaining them until I'm ready for them to turn into a jellyfish. And then I can simulate, again, like maybe spring or winter, I change the temperature, lighting, salinity, water chemistry, that sort of thing. So each of these bins here has a different species. So this polyp wall here, it's not nearly as showy as the jelly wall, because it looks like there's just a bunch of empty tanks, but this is where really all the magic happens. Each of these bins has a separate species in them. And again, there's something like 60 species here from all over the world.
So can we take a quick look?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. All right, Travis, you want to tell us about what we're looking at?
Yeah, so this is a close-up look of a bay nettle polyp. So we looked at the adult bay nettles just a minute ago. Well, this is one of their polyps. You can see it's living attached to the glass there. And again, you can kind of see the resemblance to an anemone. It's got the little tentacles, and it's just chilling there because it's being held at room temperature. So until I, bring the temperature up, it's just going to live as a polyp, making copies of itself. And then when I warm up the water and drop the salinity, it will start producing little baby bay nettles.
Alright, so we're looking at the bay nettle. What else are we looking at in this wall?
There's quite a few species here. You can see some of them are labeled with the species, and then some of them I only know the genus. Again, I do a lot of research, so some of these I'm still kind of working on. They may be undescribed species. Like as we pan down here, you'll see Chrysora species 5. Those ones haven't been described by science yet, so they don't have a real name. And then, yeah, there's just other species from all over the world.
No, this one says danger. Do you want to talk about this one a little bit?
Yeah, so I found those growing in someone's aquarium as a hitchhiker. They're box jelly. I recognize them as box jelly polyps, but I wasn't sure what species they were, so I brought them back to the lab, and then I DNA sequenced them, and I compared them with all known sequences of box jellies, and they didn't match anything. I confirmed that they were box jellies and that they're probably a species of Alatina, but past that I don't know for sure, so I labeled them danger because you never know what you're working with until we get a positive ID on those.
Alright, so we just looked at some of the polyps on your wall. Looking at this one though, same containers, a little bit different setup. Do you want to talk about what's up with that?
Yeah, so the ones we were looking at before were all being held at room temperature. So there's all the species that are okay being at kind of ambient temperature, right around 20 to 23 Celsius, 68 to 72 Fahrenheit. But there are species from all over the world, so some of them prefer to be in cold water or warm water. This bottom system here is going to be all the cold ones, and then the one above it's all the warm ones. So these are all species that need water about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 55. And again, there's different species of moon jellies, lion's manes, sea nettles. A lot of the ones from the west coast are cold water. And up there's all the warm water ones. Some of these are like from the Mediterranean or the Indo-Pacific. So if you want to come in close, we can kind of take a look at some more of these polyps. So these are blue fire jellyfish from the UK, or sometimes around like the North Sea, Sweden, Norway, that kind of thing. And if you want to kind of pan up to the top there, that long skinny guy is getting ready to strobilate. So that's the process where they start making baby jellyfish. Basically, they stretch out and then cut themselves up into little discs, and each disc will swim off kind of like a stack of pancakes, but each disc becomes its own little baby jellyfish.
Alright, so we saw adult jellyfish, we saw polyps, where they come from. What about the in-between? What do the babies look like?
Right, so like I was talking about before with that polyp that was getting ready to strobilate and produce baby jellyfish, well, they released these guys called Ephyra. So So they produce little discs of jellyfish, and they swim off and they go to live their lives and grow up into an adult jellyfish. So this area here is kind of where a lot of the science happens. I've got my microscopes. This one's set up to display it on the TV. So I can do educational outreach stuff here. I've had students come and work in the lab, and we can kind of, photograph and document things here. I do a lot of stuff photographing the different life stages of jellyfish. And so this is kind of all how it happens. And that little guy on the screen there is a type of lion's mane jellyfish from the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
So naturally, jellyfish have to eat, and you culture your own food here, right?
I do. Yeah, so I've got this thing that looks like a blender here that's bubbling. That is a brine shrimp hatchery. So brine shrimp are sea monkeys. If you remember the little sea monkey thing, that's what I'm doing here. So the eggs come dried, you keep them in the freezer, and then when you're ready to hatch brine shrimp, you just add them to this container with salt water, and then you bubble it overnight, and then the next day you have millions of baby brine shrimp to feed your jellyfish. So that's one food item I do. I hatch those out every day. And then down below, I also do rotifers and phytoplankton. So in this aquarium and the bucket over there are rotifers. So they're even smaller than a brine shrimp. They feed off of algae, and they kind of culture themselves. You just keep feeding them and make sure their water's good, and their population will continue to multiply. So having both food options is good. The rotifers, again, are smaller, so you can feed smaller jellyfish or younger babies. And then I also sometimes culture phytoplankton, which is essentially free-swimming algae. So I do those in the flasks and the bigger carboys. And then you kind of have the whole food chain. So the phytoplankton helps feed the rotifers and then the brine shrimp. And so you kind of develop this whole food chain before you feed the jellyfish.
So you were just in Ireland for the Jellyfish Symposium, correct?
Yes.
So naturally, having a lab to this degree, I imagine you probably have some super cool projects going on under the hood. And if memory serves, the symposium got a sneak peek at one of those projects. Did you want to talk about it here?
Yeah, so this aquarium that's just in the back corner of the lab that you wouldn't expect, it's full of Atlantic sea nettle jellyfish, Chrysora quincacera. So as far as I know, these have never been raised in captivity before. Their life cycle hasn't been observed. But last year I went to the Outer Banks and collected a bunch and was able to spawn them in captivity and start growing them through their life cycle and documenting it for the first time. So these are the first generation of babies that I'm raising from that batch. So you can see they're still quite small. They're maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch in diameter. They grow pretty slowly, and they're fairly difficult to grow because they need to eat other jellyfish. You can't raise them without that in their diet, and so you have to provide them with some other kind of source of jellyfish for them to grow. So that does make it a little challenging when you have to come up with a secondary food source and sacrifice some jellies to them. But that's what they need in their diet, and that's what they do in the wild.
So not everything you work with is quite a jellyfish. What else do you have swimming around the warehouse?
Yeah, so anything gelatinous, I guess, is of interest to me. Technically box jellies aren't true jellyfish, hydrozoans aren't. But these are probably the furthest stretch. So these are comb jellies here that I've been breeding. So I've got this container full of larval Nemiopsis leedii comb jellies. And so you can see they've got these two little tentacles. They actually only have those in their larval stage. And they'll actually reabsorb them. They kind of go through a metamorphosis in the middle of their life cycle, where they transform into their adult form, and they'll reabsorb those tentacles. And they're not stinging tentacles. They have no ability to sting. They actually have specialized sticky cells that they use to capture their prey. So even though they look and act like a jellyfish, they're kind of totally different, taxonomically speaking. And so I raise them in these buckets here because that's actually what they prefer. So in the wild, they tend to grow in kind of swampy, semi-stagnant bodies of water, usually brackish, and they can be found all up and down the Atlantic East Coast. So I feed them mostly rotifers and phytoplankton, They will eat brine shrimp, but they're not nearly as interested in that as the rotifers. They have kind of different dietary and nutritional needs than jellyfish as well.
So now these guys do something kind of cool, right?
Yeah, so maybe you'll be able to see it on this guy, this bigger guy up here. Yeah, so because they're so clear and glassy, they actually refract light similar to how a prism works, and it gives them this sort of rainbow kind of disco rave thing going on. And so those are actually called comb plates. They beat these plates back and forth like oars on a canoe or something, and that's how they move through the water. So they don't pulse and contract like a true jellyfish would. They actually kind of beat those comb rows back and forth to row through the water, and that gives them the ability to move like in 3 dimensions, like a spaceship or something. So.
Look like having fun. All right, Travis. So you have well over 1,000 gallons of water here. What does that take in terms of upkeep to keep track of all of those gallons?
Right, yeah, so I have to do a lot of water changes to keep water quality intact, and that requires a lot of salt water to be made. So I've got the mixing station here. So there's 2 vats. This one has purified fresh water, and then that one is where the salt water is made. So jellyfish are really intolerant of contaminants in their water, metals and things. There's a certain amount of metals like copper that are going to be present in tap water that us humans are totally okay with, but jellyfish can't tolerate it. So I've got a reverse osmosis filtration system that takes it down to essentially pure water. And then I've got this vat ready, and there's a pump there where I can transfer water over and then mix it in there. So I add aquarium salt mix to bring it up to the appropriate salinity, and then I can pump it anywhere in the jelly lab.
So I'm sure to the untrained eye, this would look just like a big box of water with a bunch of brown algae in it. But from my understanding, it's a little something more, right?
Yes, I mean, you're not wrong. This is an empty tank full of algae. But about 3 months ago, I collected a very large mushroom jelly that had washed up on the beach. It was mostly dead, but anyone who's worked with jellyfish knows that they're never really dead until they've completely fallen apart. And so it happened to be a large female that had millions of larvae on it. So I moved her into here, and she lasted maybe another 2 or 3 weeks, and then just completely fell apart. But she left all of those larvae in here, and they've settled on the walls of this tank and turned into polyps. And so both sides of this tank are just covered in polyps. Now, mushroom jellies, they can be a little tricky to keep in their polyp stage, and they are doing phenomenal in here. So I've decided they have free reign of this tank for the time being. They can live in here because they're happy. It's a little unfortunate because this is the largest display tank I have. This is about 200 gallons. So normally I fill this with my wild-caught jellies or anything that needs a lot of space. But for right now, it's full of mushroom jelly polyps, and that's where they're going to stay. But this tank, again, this is another one I built by retrofitting an existing aquarium. So you can see this one's a little different. It doesn't have the rounded corners. Not all jellyfish tanks need rounded surfaces. But it does have those spray bars on either side, so they're pointed down, and they are creating kind of a circular flow in here. And it's large enough that the flow is, it's spinning the jellies around in a circle, it's gentle, and you don't need those curved edges to it. But it does have screens on either side to keep the jellies from going down the drain.
I imagine not every body of water is completely jellyfish free.
Yeah, every aquarium, regardless of what it may look like it has, there's jellyfish living in it, even the axolotl tank. So the reef tank here has jellyfish polyps growing in it. So these kind of fuzzy patches here and there, those are thimble jellyfish polyps. Now, in the aquarium hobby, they're known as colonial hydroids, and they're considered a pest, but they actually are not hydroids, and they're not really colonial. They're thimble jellies, so they're actually true jellyfish. And they live in these little chitinous tubes and grow on the reefs. And so I've been taking up as many of them as I can from local hobbyists, because obviously they think they're a pest and they're more than happy to give them up. And now I've got them growing all throughout my reef system.
So Travis, this is not a jellyfish, but you said there's jellyfish in the axolotl tank.
Yeah, so I got this axolotl a while back, but I've set him up this 30-gallon tank. It's got plants in it, mostly floating plants. But one day I realized there were freshwater jellyfish polyps growing in here. They're growing all over the sponge filters. I assume they came in on like the roots or the underside of the plants. Now they're growing everywhere, so we can put some under the microscope and check them out.
Okay, let's do it. So most people, I think me included, when you hear the word jellyfish, you think saltwater, you think the beach, Australia, the ocean, but these are freshwater jellyfish. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, so there are a couple species of freshwater jellyfish. They're in hydrozoa, so they're a little different than like your traditional jellyfish. But the common freshwater jelly is found all over the world now. It's an invasive species, but it seems to be found in most freshwater bodies. So again, they showed up in my axolotl tank in their polyp form, and they, again, also look different than traditional jellyfish polyps. You can see these little guys here, and there's quite a few of them. They're everywhere. These are all polyps. And so instead of having like long flowing tentacles, they've just got these little kind of bulb-shaped heads that have tiny little nub tentacles and a mouth. That's it. So if you didn't know what you were looking for, you would probably not notice them. I imagine they're actually probably growing in a lot of people's freshwater aquariums and they don't even know because they're microscopic and they don't really look like much. But yeah, they just showed up in my aquarium one day and now I have freshwater jellyfish polyps.
Alright, Travis, well, I think that pretty much covers it. We looked at jellyfish from start to end, saw some super cool, not so super secret projects in the house. Checked out both saltwater and freshwater jellyfish. So if people have any questions, want to know more, tell us how we can get in contact.
Yeah, so if you just want to leave a comment below, asking questions, or if you want to see something specific, I can do more videos. We can make a part 2, or we kind of dive in deeper to some of that stuff. So just leave a comment below and let me know what you can see.
And then do you still have your website where people can check out some more jellyfish?
Yes, so there's an informational website that shows all of my research, my photos documenting different species. It's called the Jellyfish Compendium Project. So you just Google jellyfishcompendiumproject.com. It'll pull up the website. It gives you all kinds of pictures of jellyfish, and then if you click on them, it gives you information about where they're from, what conditions they grow best under, pictures of their different life cycles and stages, and all of that fun stuff.
Perfect. Well, it's been a pleasure, Travis. Thank you for showing us around.
Yeah, thank you.